Now that you've looked at how to add with fractions, now we're going to look at subtracting fractions. We're going to have the exact same steps with subtracting that we did with adding, except for now number 1 has to stay in. We don't have any way around it. And I'm going to do example 1, and after I finish example 1, I'm going to show you what would have happened if I would have tried to ignore step 1. So, first thing I'm going to do in example 1 is I'm going to change both of these mixed numbers into improper fractions. So, I'm going to go ahead and say 15 times 4 is 60 plus the 1 is 61 over 15. If you are struggling with changing mixed numbers to improper fractions, please let me know because I can show you how that works. We can go over it step by step together, and I can also give you some places where you can do some practice with that. Second problem, or the second fraction, 6 times 2 is 12, plus 5 is 17 over 6. Now I have to go ahead, I've done step 1, step 2, I have to find my common denominator. I am very familiar with my multiplication facts, so I know that 15 times 2 is 30, and 6 times 5 is 30. And 30 is the least or smallest number that both 15 and 6 go into, so I'm going to use that as my denominator. So I'm going to multiply the 15 times 2, which also forces me to multiply the 61 by 2. And I'm going to multiply the 6 by 5, same thing with 17 times 5. Well, 61 times 2 gives me 122 over 30. Minus 17 times 5 is going to give me 85 over 30. And I can go ahead and subtract. Doing that subtraction gives me 37 over 30, which I can leave as an improper fraction, or I can say 30 goes into 37 once with 7 out of 30 left over. Same thing, if you do not know how to change an improper fraction back to a mixed number, please let me know. The intent of this video is not to teach you that skill. You should already have it. And if you don't, it's okay. We just have to make sure to address that. So please, again, have that conversation with me if you don't know how to do that. Now, that is the correct answer. That is the correct way to work this problem. I'm now going to show you the incorrect way. Do not put this in your notes. I'm worried that if you put this down in your notes, you're going to look at it later and it's going to confuse you and you may think this is the correct way to do it. So I'm going to go ahead and working it the wrong way. I'm going to skip step 1 and say if I have 4 and 1/15 and I'm subtracting 2 and 5/6, I know my common denominator is still 30. So I'm going to go through that same step 2. Giving me 4 and 2/30 minus 2 and 25/30. From here I say 4 minus 2, is 2. And I say, pointing out up here, order matters with subtraction. With subtraction, I always have to go from left to right, which means I have to do 2 subtract 25. Well, I know if I have 2 and someone takes 25 from me, I'm in the hole a negative 23/30. And according to this, again, I cannot have positives and negatives together. I cannot have a whole number that is positive with a negative fraction. So this does not work. It is not the correct answer. And the only way I could answer that problem, the only way I could get to that result is by changing 4 and 1/15 and 2 and 5/6 to an improper fraction first. Keeping those steps in mind as I move down to the second example, Becky is trying to find the perfect hair length. This is a little bit of a typo. It should say her hair started at 26 inches long. She first cut off 2 2/5 inches. It wasn't enough, so she cut off some more. She cut off an additional 1 2/3 inches. We want to know how long her hair is. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to first subtract the 2 2/5 from 26. And then I'm going to subtract the 1 2/3 from 26. So 26 minus 2 2/5, according to my first step with subtracting, I have to change everything to an improper fraction. I can change a whole number to a fraction by putting it over 1. And 5 times 2 is 10, plus 2 is 12/5. Well, my least common denominator between 1 and 5, the first number they're both going to go into is 5. And I actually do not have to multiply the second one by anything. I can go ahead and leave it. Multiplying by 5, I get 26 times 5 is 130. fifths minus 12 fifths gives me 118 fifths. Now normally I would probably change that back into a mixed number. However, I know I'm not done with the problem yet. So I'm going to go ahead and take that 118 fifths that I just got, and I'm now going to subtract Becky's second haircut, which is 1 2/3. The 1 2/3 has to be changed into an improper fraction. 3 times 1 is 3, plus 2 is 5. Again, I'm going to fix that 5 because it looks like there's kind of a negative in front of it. So let me just rewrite that there. That looks better. Again, I need a common denominator. I know the first number that both 5 and 3 go into is 15. So I'm going to use that as my common multiple, or my least common denominator. 118 times 3 is going to give me 354 fifteenths minus 25 fifteenths. Doing my subtraction, I get 329 fifteenths. Again, I'm not going to go through this process. I did do some work on my own, but 329 divided by 15, I get 21 with 14 fifteenths left over. Because this was a story problem, I should have units. So I see it was asking for the length of her hair, and it referred to it in inches before. So I'm going to assume that I'm still using inches. And I'm going to say her hair is 21 and 14 fifteenths inches long. So with subtracting, please make sure you do not forget step 1. That is the end of this video. Please make sure to bring in any questions you have with you to class.